Hello again everyone. Well, many years ago, before young Summer was born, I made a toy box in the workshop where I worked. So I painted it a very bright blue with clouds all over it, and yeah, when she grew up it was sort of relegated to the loft and been stored there ever since. But now she's expecting her first child. She asked me if I could repaint it for the nursery that she's decorating, and she had a particular colour in mind, which is this sort of colour, which I believe is called Old Gold. It's kind of a very light browny goldy colour, and that matches in with the rest of the decor of the nursery. But she wanted the clouds repainted back on it. Now, I wasn't sure quite how the clouds would look. I'm gonna airbrush them this time. Last time they were just very cartoon-like clouds, so sort of Mr. Man type clouds painted on just with ordinary gloss paint on a brush. So I'm not entirely sure quite how I'll do it. So I've got a bit of plywood which I've painted with exactly the same paint. Obviously it's a very slightly rough surface, so that may make a little bit of a difference as well. And I'm just going to try a cloud to see how it looks before I try it on the main toy box. Now, if this was a white sheet and we just wanted to draw a traditional sort of white clouds on a blue sky background, I might start off by masking off the area of the clouds and spraying the blue sky colour. But of course there's no point spraying a blue sky colour at the whole box, because it's got to be this colour at the end. It's got to be clouds on this colour. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to mix up some white, and I'm just going to tear a sort of rough length along the middle of this bit of paper and use it to mask off the sort of cloud area. Well, mask off outside the cloud area rather, and make my cloud shape in white. Well, as you can see, that didn't really go too well. The airbrush paint really isn't liking going over the top of the gloss. I was trying to get a fairly heavy white on there, but yeah, it was sort of beading up a little bit. So yeah, I'm not sure it's going to work, but I'm going to carry on with it and just try and fill in the cloud area a little bit as best I can. I'm going to have to take it quite slow, I think. So I'm wondering if it would have been better if I'd have just given this a very, very light sanding. Obviously I do want the gloss finish where the sort of clouds are, which is the awkward thing with doing that, but I wonder if that might have provided a better key and just stopped it shedding slightly. I can always clear over the top of it perhaps to get that gloss back. Maybe that's something to try if this doesn't work, but because this is really a test piece, I'm going to carry on. I'm going to mix up some grey just to give some texture to these clouds, and see perhaps if I can rescue this bit a little bit, and yeah, see how it goes. Obviously this is definitely not a tutorial. This is quite experimental really. I'm not sure if this is going to work. Just using some paper towel, a torn paper towel, just as a sort of a mask there, just to get a slightly more blurry effect. And I think I've rescued it a little bit. As you can see, the grey was getting slightly darker The black paint I've got is quite old and wasn't really mixing in very well. So as I was spraying, the grey was getting darker, but I don't think that's any bad thing. I think that's okay. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to mix up some just plain white again, and just come in and bring in some sort of sharper highlights just around the sort of top edges of the cloud, where the sun or the light, if there is any, would be hitting. So just mainly sort of on the top. So I'll probably put a little bit more sort of movement bits in there as well, a few little wispy taily bits. There you go, what do you think? Does that look sort of pretty cloud-like? I know it's odd having that sort of yellowy, goldy brown sky background, but I think that does look like clouds. Well, because it's acrylic paint, that wouldn't be very durable on top of the gloss, so I'm going to give it a coat over with some UVLS clear, and then we'll sort of be able to judge sort of how that works, make sure there's no bad reaction there, and yeah, maybe that's the thing. Let's see what it looks like with some clear on it. There you go, what do you reckon? Do you reckon that looks sufficiently like clouds to pass muster on that background colour? I think I'm going to let that clear harden off, maybe for a day or two, and then just test it and see how durable that finish is, bearing in mind it's going to be a toy box in a child's nursery. Well, it's quite a few days later now, so that clear has had a good old chance to set. Can't really mark it or scratch it off much with the fingernail. So I think that's a reasonably good finish. I like this cloud more than I like this cloud, really. I think this has too many sharp edges. It looks rather like you're looking through a little bit of a hole in the sky into the cloud rather than the cloud being on the sky. So I might use a little bit less of a template to get the cloud outline next time. Maybe just outline it with the airbrush. But yeah, I'm reasonably pleased with that. Might have another little bash before I actually go to do the finished version on the toy box.